recommend for anyone who's on Concerta long term, like take some time off of it because you need to understand just how bad the withdrawals are. And it's such a challenge with Concerta. Like going back to when I first started using Concerta, the way in which I should have taken it was a way in which I would take like one day off a week, or I would go like 2 months on, followed just by a few days off. Because otherwise, when you're on it, like the people who go on Concerta for years, put it this way, once they get off of it, it actually takes a long time to feel back to normal. Like the withdrawals are no joke. Social isolation, bad thinking. You're in your head. You don't want to work, and it's like you read at a slower pace because Concerta, man, it's some strong stuff. So I'm not the biggest fan, but if you're in like a really bad slump and you got to get back to work, there's no question it'll really increase your productivity because it does. Like I used it mostly when I was a student, get through material very, very quickly, but then as well in a sales role for like a month, I had like a record-breaking month, you can say, through the use of Concerta. So it's pretty cool stuff. Does modafinil interfere with creatine and other basic vitamins shouldn't be taken together, right? I've never heard of this of the modafinil necessarily interfering with creatine or basic vitamins or the absorption or the uptake of specific vitamins and minerals. I wouldn't be too concerned about it. The great thing about modafinil and why a lot of people take it is because there's so much research done on it. There's anecdotes of people using modafinil for years and then getting off of it and not having withdrawal symptoms. Use common sense. The way that I'm using modafinil now, 2 to 3 times a week. The past couple weeks, only once a week. That's been going good. And where it's good is if you have, let's say, if you're traveling, if you're just tired out. I think really the best thing modafinil can help you with, it's not creative thinking, not necessarily recall, but like really just fighting fatigue. It's super strong. The free amino acid, I've not found any difference between the powder or capsule, but as a matter of fact, the way you're most commonly gonna find the FAA form is gonna be powder form. What do you recommend for staying focused and getting your neurons firing? I love it. For as far as staying focused, I love mixing caffeine, L-tyrosine, getting a good workout in. Make sure you stay hydrated. Most people are really dehydrated. They're not drinking enough water. That's a big one. And really, there's no magic formula or magic nootropic when it comes to that. It's about the consistency of using the nootropics. It's about having faith and being consistent with them. Rhodiola rosea is really good for energy. It's also good for focus. As far as just clearing your mind, lion's mane is going to be good. Bacopa is going to be good. Some people find that ashwagandha just makes them a bit more present to allow them to be focused. So the big question is like, are you looking for focus and for energy? Because then you would look at perhaps a different nootropic stack versus somebody who's already really energetic and they just need to focus on the most important work that they got to prioritize. Is there anything similar to Adderall that's not bad for you? Love the question, Chris. I've actually made an in-depth video on this. It's 6 alternatives to Adderall. I think it's 6. So that was a really that was a video that was really well received. And the ones that I mentioned specifically were phenylprostam. I mean, everything. When you say bad for you, you got to be specific. Like I don't see any of these as anywhere close to as bad as Adderall. Plus, they're not meds. So phenylprostam was one of them. Maybe adrafinil. Quality of mind. And it's important you understand, like with Adderall, what makes it so unique is the fact that with Adderall is you take it once. You take it once, and then that's it. It will serve you pretty much for the rest of the day. Whereas with nootropics, to get that Adderall-like feeling, you're going to have to be taking the nootropics 2, if not 3 times a day. So what does that look like? Alpha GPC is great. Noopept is going to be great. L-tyrosine is going to be great. Small dose caffeine is going to be great. And using that a few times throughout the day, because is nootropics, yes, they work. And the way people often get started is by taking them once a day, but you need that afternoon stack. For those of you that are working like longer days, just try it. Get some Bacopa maneri, get some lion's mane, get some Alpha GPC, perhaps some Rhodiola rosea and some L-tyrosine. Put it halfway during your workday, and just watch how good the second half of your workday is. It's pretty crazy. DMA and Noopept under the tongue in the afternoon has been doing great the past couple weeks. I've actually cut out my afternoon Adderall. There you go. And caffeine dosages, which is wild to me. I feel better overall. That's super inspiring. I'm glad you shared that. With Phenibut, the biggest dose that I tried was 4 grams of the HCl, just because I didn't notice it working. With the FAA, nothing crazy. Well, I don't know if that's crazy. 2 to 3 grams. You can start off as small as 200 milligrams, 500 milligrams. It just depends on how responsive you are to it. L-theanine and caffeine is pretty crazy. It's for some people, I don't think that they need it. The L-theanine, like what's so is yes, it's with L-theanine, it's calming, but it's also demotivating in a lot of ways. So I thought I liked it for a bit. I think it really just depends on what kind of work you're doing. If you just if anxiety isn't an issue, being present, being calm is not an issue, like me, and you just need energy. I think L-tyrosine and caffeine is really, really good. What can be used to lower acetylcholine besides racetams? The main question is, why would you want to lower it in the first place? Let me know about that. Best nootropic for productivity without social interactions in front of computer work other than modafinil. Ashwagandha could be good because it's calming, and ashwagandha often gets people away from talking to people because they're demotivated, they're a little bit tired. L-tyrosine is very good. Also, something I've been using a bit strategically is phosphatidylserine. Phosphatidylserine, from Nootropics Depot, you can get it in the soft gels. It's really good stuff. Also, stress helps you stay focused. It does have a little bit. It has like 4 calories per serving, something very small, but that's working well for me. I'm enjoying that. If you're considering the best type of kratom, I've yet to try these. I have several kratom products that have been sitting on the shelf, so I'll let you know about that. I'm gonna give it some shot. Gonna give it a shot. Bro, I do carpentry 8 hours a day. What do you recommend for focus and energy? Love it. Rhodiola rosea is gonna be key. Take 500 milligrams of that 1 to 2 times during your workday. You can use some Alpha GPC if it's but that'll more so help with like mentally. As far as physical energy is concerned, it's going to be rhodiola rosea. Make sure you get a lot of vitamin B in your diet, like B12. It's going to be a common ingredient in pre-workout supplements, which is great. Creatine may also help you as well, as long as you're hydrated. And then, of course, stimulants. Use stimulants very strategically. That's what I would do. Yes, I for sure need a nice afternoon stack. Oh my God, does it help? Like, there's just for those like working like 9 to 5, a typical way you could do that is right after lunch, something like 1 o'clock, 500 milligrams of rhodiola rosea, 750 milligrams of L-tyrosine, something like 200 to 300 milligrams of alpha GPC. And if you have the racetams, that can be good too, like oxyracetam. That's a very stimulating one. It's not like paracetam. Paracetam is good when it comes to thinking, learning, planning, energy levels. With oxyracetam though, you feel that spike of alertness. It works really well. Hello, my man. I've been watching you since before the fame. What fame? There is no fame. Do you know any place that carries? Yeah, that's an example of a question that we don't want on this channel. And need more breaks off of it. Cool. I like it. Ever done Phenibut? What is everyone asking about Phenibut today? Wow, interesting. Phenibut, yes, I've done it. I made the mistake of thinking that Phenibut, if I used it with modafinil, I made the mistake of thinking, okay, modafinil is raising my heart rate. Perhaps with Phenibut, it could help to calm me down. And that does not happen because Phenibut also increases your heart rate. And so if you have them both together, don't make that mistake that I made, because your heart rate will jump through the roof. And also with Phenibut, I like the fact that you can take it later in the day. Like you can't do that with modafinil, for example. So I'll take my modafinil, I'll hit a good workout, and then later on, post-workout, that's when I'll use the Phenibut. Because keep in mind, like I mentioned in the beginning of this video, Phenibut is something where what's going to happen is, don't have it before you drive. You feel kind of wobbly, like you're intoxicated. So that's not the kind of feeling you want to get in the weight room, or that's my experience with it anyway. Is it bad to use melatonin daily for sleep? It is, right? I personally think it is. I found that really interesting that like with Gorilla Dream, which is that product by the same people with the Gorilla Mind product, but they do have the melatonin, I think, in an instant release as well as an extended release, but it's there, and they advise you to take the product every day. So I think it is. I think there's better alternatives out there. There's stuff like valerian root. There's lemon balm extract. I actually like taking ZMA. I like taking tribulus. And the specific form of ashwagandha called Shodan. Game changer, 120 milligrams of that. There's a really good study done specifically on showing on just how much it helps with sleep. So that's a good one. We never want to ignore the importance of good quality rejuvenating sleep. Let's go. How's it going with the Nutrivita shop trial products? Great question. Yes, me and Me and Mrs. Jennifer have been talking on Patreon about that. There are no complaints with it so far. I've been using their oxiracetam, and I've been using, I think, their paracetam. Seems pretty good. How's their service? Maybe the service is good to me because I'm the nootropic reviewer. How's the service for everybody else? I don't know yet, so I'll keep you guys posted, but I'm enjoying their racetams. I really missed oxiracetam and not having it for a good year, so that's been cool. I've been taking paracetam, aniracetam, oxiracetam, pramiracetam stack for about a week. I feel clear. How long before I need to feel the true effect? Oh, also Alpha GPC. Yes, use it with Alpha GPC. Those are really important, and you should have noticed something from now, like about maybe a week, 10 days possibly. What so is with these nootropics, the more I'll say the more time you spend alone and the harder you're working, the more likely you're going to be to notice them actually doing something. Like I sell houses. It's all commission based. There is no salary, so I'm like super mindful of everything that I'm taking and just how it's affecting the results. So that's going to be key for you. Like, guys, have objective measures of everything. Just like if you're trying to lose weight, you weigh yourself, track something, track your grades, track your income. Or worst case, if you can't track anything, then ask your friends, ask your family members. Have I been behaving, any different than typically? 2009, I've been here forever. Yeah, started this channel end of 2018. It's been a good ride, good education. You guys have taught me as much as I potentially taught you. Appreciate it. Have you tried brain training to permanently increase your 13 IQ points? Yeah, take that to the bank. Shoot, I think we just froze. There we go. Yeah, I've gained 13 IQ points already. It just needs to be the right training. So I did, I think it was called, was it Luminosity? Pretty much like the first brain training that came out way back in the day, probably like 10, 11 years ago. So I did it, and like, you get better at the scores, just like you'll get better doing crosswords or doing a Sudoku puzzle. Is it going to help you long term? I don't know. I think really a good brain training is, hey, go out and make some cold calls. Go out and knock on some doors. Like, you're going to be sharper in ways that you want to be, and it'll be pretty clear for you. So I think your time is going to be, I mean, we all just have that, you can say like a GPS to know what activities we're doing that are causing us to think smarter, think better, perhaps having our IQ points go up. So I'm not a big fan specifically on brain training, but that being said, I just got that great what's it called, that biofeedback. It scans your brain while you're doing a meditation practice called Muse. So I'm enjoying that. Not necessarily brain training, but getting feedback on my brain so I can understand how to get into a nice, relaxful, calm state and lower the number of thoughts that I have. Hey, Michael, can you tell me what can happen when putting caffeine 6 weeks in and 0 caffeine, feel lethargic, no motivation? I would really recommend that you go up and look at stimulant-free pre-workout products. It'll be very educational for you. So there's most pre-workout products, the way they're designed is like they have caffeine, a stimulant, but then there's some product blends out there and they're stimulant-free. And then you'll get to understand what the key ingredients are going to be. It's going to be L-tyrosine, it's going to be N-acetyl-L-tyrosine, beta-alanine, that's a pretty common one, vitamin B at a very high dose, taurine is also great. So that'll be for you. And you can get through it. There are stimulants out there that you may want to check out otherwise, like theocrine is pretty popular, dynamine, ephedrine I don't recommend. It's interesting, they work on different receptors though, so perhaps you can still get away with your caffeine withdrawal if you plan to add it back. Best ingredients for a home, oh sorry, I skipped this. I've done it before. Wasn't a fan. I think just personally super overrated. People are looking for a magic formula. Best ingredients for homemade pre-workout. Yeah, I mentioned those ones. So L-tyrosine, taurine, beta-alanine, citrulline malate, creatine, vitamin B. I feel like I'm missing something. L-arginine some people take, but L-tyrosine is going to be a key one, and 200 to 300 milligrams of caffeine. I don't advise necessarily. I mean, yeah, I don't necessarily think L-theanine is the best one, but perhaps if it's too much caffeine for you, and you're going to feel the crash, perhaps that can help to offset that. And then there's a few other nootropics that you can add there kind of for focus. Noopept being Noopept being a good one. Alpha GPC at a pretty high dose can be a good one too. Since L-tyrosine and caffeine gives me a little anxiety, even at super low doses of 100 milligrams, do you think I should try L-phenylalanine instead? Maybe I can get the similar benefits. You can give that a shot. You can also give a shot to mucuna pruriens, and I would advise you with with L-tyrosine and caffeine, try different doses and also try different brands. Like with L-tyrosine, for example, that was like really one interesting experience. When I used it in the powder form, I got the anxiety. When I used it in the capsule, I didn't. And you can give an acetyl-L-tyrosine a shot. That one, it hits you faster, but it also gets out of your system faster. So maybe more appropriate for you to take like your caffeine 30 minutes prior to working out, and then like right before your workout, you can consider taking some N-acetyl-L-tyrosine. Works out well. Ever tried yohimbine? Man, looks like we got a lot of newer viewers because I got like every video out there. Yes, I've tried yohimbine. I used yohimbine like years before this channel, because I was looking for a stimulant that could induce a euphoric feeling, and yohimbine seemed like the only thing that could do that, and also help with fat loss when you're at like 10% body fat. If you aspire to get down to those crazy levels like 6 to 7%, that's where yohimbine can be good. So I don't necessarily see it good as a nootropic, but I think if you're super lean, maybe you're wanting to lean out for a contest and you're doing fasted cardio, then yohimbine can be decent. But otherwise, most people, they feel very anxious when they get on it. Unless you're somebody like you just have no anxiety like whatsoever, you're just like, I want to make as much money as I can, work 24/7. Man, like, you guys are okay. You can get away with taking a little bit of yohimbine, and it did work for me actually in the sales context that way, because that's how I was, just ambitious, driven, work hard. And the way that I was taking it was, I think it was 2.5 milligrams per. Watch the video. it's there somewhere. Pair it with 500 milligrams to 750 milligrams of L-tyrosine. If that works well for you, you can even go up to like 1.5 grams of L-tyrosine and use it with caffeine, and take that prior to working out. After your workout, you will feel amazing. It's super cool. Stronger than tyrosine. Sorry, what are you comparing it to? You take Modafinil. When would you recommend it? I shared a bit before on that topic, but in most cases it's going to be no, unless you just need to get to work. You know what you have to do. If you're making an agreement to yourself that it's the only time you're going to take it, because Modafinil, it's horribly addicting, and it will, because you don't feel withdrawals. That's the very reason why you may continue to take it on a consecutive basis, and you can just get into this bad cycle of taking Modafinil, being okay with sleeping 5 to 6 hours, but in your heart of hearts, you're not sleeping enough. You got to take better care of your body. Like with Modafinil, the first thing you'll notice is you don't have the patience for anyone. You should be connecting with your family. You should be talking to people. But it's interesting when you talk to people and you don't remember the conversation the next day. Why? Because there's information that is not really pursued. I mean, it doesn't really get retained in your memory bank long term. Maybe just because there's no emotions around whatever information you're getting. It's just data, 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 data. You become a bit like a robot. So pretty interesting. But that being said, if it comes down to execution, if you just got to get a lot done, Modafinil is really good with energy. So I'm typically taking it on a Tuesday because I'll work the whole day, work really hard, wake up pretty early, get to the gym, and then the evening of Tuesday is when I'm typically shooting my YouTube stuff for all you guys. So that's my way around using Modafinil. I'm pretty sure melatonin supplements reduces your own production with time. Exactly, which is the very reason why you may want to be a bit strategic with melatonin use. So the way that I'm doing that is I'm taking melatonin typically when I travel, just a very small, like a small dose if I have to get accustomed to the jet lag, or perhaps if it's before, if I have to sleep, wake up earlier than I'm typically, then I would use melatonin. Melatonin blends can be very good out there. So Gorilla Dream was one. Dream Water is a great product. They've also got 5-HTP. They've got a little bit of GABA. So these nootropics help to just enhance the overall melatonin experience. Thought on Subroxy for motivation. It probably does what you expect it to do. Not that much of a focus boost. It maybe does something. It's probably hyped up. It's still pretty new, maybe a year to 2 years old now, or released mainstream on Nootropics Depot. So within a few years, no one will really care about it, I think. What's the name of the ashwagandha that I just mentioned? That's Shodan, S like Sam, H like Henry, October, Diamond, Edward, Nancy. So Shodan, if you look up Shodan study on sleep, you can find this great study where they gave 120 milligrams of Shodan to participants of the study, and they noticed like their sleep scores were better on all markers. They slept deeper, they woke up less times during the time they were sleeping, and subjectively they woke up in a much better state. Because sometimes you take melatonin or you take something and you wake up feeling groggy. What would you recommend for nighttime reading? Would nice picture, Edward. What would you recommend for nighttime reading? Would like to be focused to go to sleep shortly after. Is this even possible? In most cases, not. You can get a Kindle. I think like Kindle does well. It's like in the sense of it's not this big like bright light that's going to keep you up, and it's pretty good overall. You can focus with it better. So I've enjoyed that. But as far as it's a problem. I don't think there's too much of a solution to that because you're reading and you're reading slower. You're not as focused on it, but it also pays off very well because when you're getting like good positive stuff, good knowledge right before before sleeping, that's gonna marinate during your sleep. It's gonna be good for you. And shoot, where did I just go in the comments? What is red light therapy? Sorry guys, I'm just trying to find out. Have you tried Derek's continued product Gorilla Mind Rush? No, I don't know what that product's about. I've used Gorilla Mind Energy, Gorilla Mind Dream. Are you Indian? Yeah. Are any nootropics with similar euphoric effects as nicotine? No, I've yet to find something like that. With nicotine, just super strong, physically, gets you out of your head, gets you inspired, makes you feel good. My practice is just a very small dose of nicotine, something like 5 to 6 milligrams, sometime in the evening, just to get my energy up. I like in that it helps me do the work I don't really want to do, right? And for everyone out there, even if you have tasks like setting up cameras, taking out the garbage, like you just spray something, it'll get you just energetic and at the same time not too energetic to the point that it'll stimulate you so much that you can't fall asleep. But the problem with it is that this is for me anyway, 45 minutes later or like an hour later, I don't feel that great. I feel worse than I felt before I took the nicotine. Let me know if that's been your experience. I've been here before the fame too. What is this fame everyone's talking about? I'm just regular Mike. It means the same place and the same background as you guys know with the same damn red and black chair. No one can raise their IQ. I did a 30-hour Java course in one sitting with Modafinil. Yeah, it'll allow you to execute like I mentioned. The L-tyrosine versus N-acetyl, what's better? What's the difference? Great. Yeah, that's so N-acetyl L-tyrosine, like I mentioned. So here's the funny thing. When you do the research on it, N-acetyl L-tyrosine, it looks better, more bioavailable, better efficiency. You're supposed to uptake it better, blah blah. But when you look at the anecdotes, I mean, there's very few people who've talked in a practical sense of N-acetyl L-tyrosine being better than L-tyrosine. L-tyrosine is way better. You ingest it. So here's the main thing, which is or there's a couple of different things. So N-acetyl L-tyrosine, smaller doses, it hits you faster, but also it lasts for a very short time. So a common dose of N-acetyl L-tyrosine, like on Nootropics Depot, is going to be 350 milligrams, whereas a common dose of L-tyrosine is going to be 500 to 750 milligrams. With L-tyrosine, it'll take you about 20 minutes, more often 30 minutes for it to for it to be an effect you can actually feel as far as like focus, being productive, being goal driven, because that's how it feels, and it'll last for much longer. So I'm taking L-tyrosine 30 minutes before working out. I'm hitting my workout and it keeps me really fired up and energetic. Yeah, sorry guys. Yeah, and even when I've tried bringing the dose of N-acetyl L-tyrosine up to something I would take with L-tyrosine, like 750 milligrams, it didn't really do much for me anyway. So I really would recommend you guys take L-tyrosine, but like it's much better. One sec, this connection is still good. Hey, thanks for the time. Do you have experience with uridine, any form for focus over a period of time? Yes, although I didn't notice much from it. I think that for most people, you're going to be better off taking Alpha GPC. I think it's a pretty overhyped nootropic. A lot of people say they take uridine, they feel better, they're in a better mood. That hasn't been my experience pretty much. I want to say I've been here. Okay, thank you very much. Best supplement to reduce brain fog. What causes brain fog in the first place? Is it dehydration? Is it perhaps you've taken too much choline, maybe too little choline? Is it stimulant intake? Because often that's what it comes from. could as well be the fact that you've not paired the right ratio to uracetams and alpha GPC or whatever choline source that you're trying. As far as reducing it and just getting some energy, L-tyrosine has been the best thing. For me, the way that I experience brain fog the most is going to be from a stimulant crash. So like 200 milligrams, even 100 milligrams of caffeine. I do feel a crash, but the way that I'm able to get out of that, besides, of course, taking a break, practicing mindfulness, using 750 milligrams of L-tyrosine works very nice. Best verbal fluency stack for sales. Great question. Paracetam is great. Aniracetam is great. Lion's mane, that's also good. Lion's mane will actually help you more in a way of like wanting to genuinely get to know people better. Lion's mane will make you great at asking questions. Like, it's really good. We need to, as salespeople, we need to ask questions, open-ended questions, questions that lead to the sale. We also have to acknowledge people. We have to gain rapport. That's big. Lion's mane, it does help you to do all these things. So Lion's mane really just help the quality of not only my sales conversations, but my just conversations in general. You know, you're genuinely interested in the person. You'll get to know them, and they can sense that. People can sense that. Paracetam, very inexpensive. If you were to use paracetam, 2 to 3 times a day is good. Taking 1 gram is a pretty common serving size, so 2 to 3 grams. Use it with a choline source. My favorite being Alpha GPC, 150 milligrams of Alpha GPC 2 to 3 times a day, and be patient with it. You have to commit to the consistency before you get into it, really, because if you don't, then you won't notice it working. Why aren't you reading my comments? Ling, I'm reading them. If a person is not deficient in L-tyrosine and choline, will supplementing with L-tyrosine and choline provide nootropic benefits? Yes, they will. Because what so is L-tyrosine, it's interesting because most of us are not deficient in L-tyrosine. Let's face it, in meat, if you actually just look up like where how much L-tyrosine is in foods, or amino acid profiles in different meats, you'll see L-tyrosine is very, very high. But the magic happens with L-tyrosine, like I've said this, when you take it in its free form, when it's not competing with other amino acids. So fasted, or better yet, if you take it a couple hours after a meal, you'll notice the energy, the alertness, the arousal. Like, I love L-tyrosine because when it's 5 or 6 o'clock and I need to get some work done, I'm a little bit tired, then I don't want to take caffeine. It'll keep me up, and L-tyrosine is just a great alternative that way. Just the only issue is that it does cause a bit of anxiety with it. So I think it's good, perhaps, if you're doing work where you're just on airplane mode and you don't need to be interacting with people. You've got your to-do list. You'll just knock everything off. That's where it's good. Alpha GPC crash after about 2 hours. Take less. That is a good solution. 300 milligrams, I'm learning, is actually a high dose for most people. It's not a high dose for me. Modafinil wrecks your sleep. Depending on the dose, I think, and depending on the sensitivity of the individual. For me, I'm only using 100 milligrams, so I've not found it that bad. I mean, even compared to phenylparacetam, like phenylparacetam is bad. If there's any way modafinil will wreck your sleep, is like it really impairs your judgment in the evening, and you will be you'll be wasting time on your computer, on social media, taking in all this blue light, and that's how it's really going to affect your sleep, I think. Got that question. Modafinil got me tingling over my body. That's interesting. Can you review the nootropic stacks from Live Cortex? I don't know anything about them. Oh, I forgot he had a channel, but you're welcome to let me know what the nootropic stack is like. Can you touch on ephedrine dosage? Does it affect sleep as much as yohimbine? No, not at all. Yohimbine's a pretty bad one when it comes to keeping you awake. With ephedrine, actually, the way I was using it was to study, even though I shouldn't have been, but I didn't want to take too much caffeine, especially at the later stages of the day. So a good ephedrine dose could be as small as 8 milligrams. 8 milligrams is good. 16, 24, those are more common ones when it comes to fat loss. But I think with ephedrine, if you were to use it like almost like hour to hour, it's decent. Smaller doses spread throughout the day when it comes to productivity. It doesn't make you as anxious as caffeine does. Have you ever found melatonin not to work? If so, I covered this question, Mr. Joe Rogan, earlier. So, but as far as found it not to work, the brand of melatonin really matters. It's interesting because we got this melatonin video coming out next week, and I'm glad you guys are excited about it. Best things to prevent panic attacks caused by TRT. Never have them off TRT, but high energy, high anxiety, man, normally. I've never experienced panic attacks when I was on TRT. Even when like my testosterone levels were like super high, I mean, there was no anxiety. If anything, I was just energetic, ambitious, just wanted to crush it in every area of my life. So I'll get back to you on that. I'll give it some thought. I've heard you talk about meditation here and there. How much do you meditate, and would you say it's helped overall mood? What's more important is you do a meditation practice once, so you get to know what it feels like. I think Arnold Schwarzenegger was the one who said, if you meditate for a year, you'll get the benefits throughout the rest of your life. And that's kind of what I did. I took a year and I meditated an hour a day, and like a lot of learned practices came from that. You kind of learn how to lower the number of thoughts you have. And now I'm only doing like, I'll do a 10-minute session every day pretty much. I'll do like a quick, like even like 3 to 5 minute one right first thing in the morning. But how it's helped with mood. It's helped me organize my thoughts. It's helped me focus really on priorities. Like I would really encourage you, everyone needs a middle day, like a midday break, and they don't do it. So find the break that works for you. But what I love about meditation is you really get a boost of discipline. You will be so zoned in to prioritize that task that you really don't want to do, right? Like you'll get them done. So that's how I think it's helped me most. I think, yeah, it's just a great practice. Can you tell us a story time with your experience with Adderall? Well, I've never used Adderall. And Ling, I'm not ignoring your comments, man. Don't know why you said that. Maybe I missed yours. I love the picture. I gave a bit of a story with Concerta, but it's very similar in the sense of Adderall makes you wired, makes you energetic, makes you goal-driven, but the next day you have a horrible withdrawal, right? Yeah, nicotine puts me in the worst mental place after the effects goes away. That's neat. I mean, I've yet to find that experience. I thought I was the only one. Would you say your motivation to do focus and work comes in bursts, or is it more sustained? Which nootropics would you say complement your style, burst versus sustained? I'm not really like a burster kind of person. I think just if you have good ways in your life to create some urgency, like a sense of immediacy, like let's get things done. Why move slow when you move fast? Business is a lot more fun when when you're either having like a fast and fun experience or slow and painful. And so I think it's more important that you just structure vacations in your life. I like to take trips at least 4 times a year. Structure your day off. I don't work Sunday, and I'll work half a day Saturday. So that's the time when I can kind of tone it down a little bit. But otherwise, I'm enjoying it. And we're sprinting. Have you ever tried Bacopa and Bacopa? Yes, and I've not really found any difference between any of the Bacopas, quite honestly, regardless of the brand, where you get it, the percentages, and so forth. Kana could be compared to nicotine in my experience. I'm giving a shot with Kana now. I've got a few different blends with it. I'll look out for that. That's super cool. Best supplements to take for someone using ADHD medication. L-theanine can be good. Otherwise, Alpha GPC would strongly recommend it. And then during the time in the evening when you're typically going to feel that crash, that's a good. In those scenarios, I would take some more Alpha GPC, and I would also use L-tyrosine. And if those ones are working or are not working, you want something else. Another one is rhodiola rosea. Something like 500 milligrams is good. Still got some triacetylurine. Very cool. This should be a Guinness World. If there's a world record that I could probably hit, I can't say this with certainty, but I could probably take like 25 pills at once. Maybe I'll do that in a video for you guys. Like small pills, big pills. It's pretty simple to do. Best supplement for mood elevation. For me, it's going to be caffeine. Others that would be good would be ashwagandha, also Bacopa. Like that's a good happiness stack. Combining Bacopa and ashwagandha, they're 2 of the most demotivating nootropics out there. This is the common things you hear, but man, they get you in a good mood. Use those together 2 times a day. In a couple weeks, your just general baseline mood will be a lot better. You'll be more present. You'll feel less anxiety, less worry. It's overall like a nice feeling. Because when I drop those 2 nootropics out of my stack, I notice I'm not in as good of a mood, but I also don't mind because of being productive. Like nobody likes to worry, and so those 2 are great. Is lion's mane better in powder form or liquid form? Powder capsule is good. I don't think there's any difference really. Did you notice the difference when consuming natural choline from egg versus Alpha GPC? Which would you say fuels racetams better? It would be Alpha GPC, but I generally like having the racetams more when I am combining it with a meal or not necessarily a fat source. Like if anything, since I practice intermittent fasting, I haven't noticed racetams work as effectively, but at the same time, it's like not a game changer. It's maybe 20 to 30% better. That's just my experience. I could be wrong. Sorry guys, just getting focused. For modafinil, it stopped working. What do I do? Take some time off of it, and then you can consider getting back on it. But hey, for those of you that have really been taking modafinil for a long time, hey, trust it's not as good as you think, unless you're just using it short term with the expectation that you're going to get off of it. Because like I mentioned, like for education and for learning, modafinil really hurts. Like I would never go to a seminar or something where I know, let's say I was like learning from someone, learning from a group, asking questions to a mentor. I would never want to be in the state of modafinil because you won't remember anything, or you would want to just go and like make sure the whole thing is recorded so you can listen to it back in an unstimulated state. Moda makes me awake and productive, but triggers anxiety. And if I'm sad, it's 100 times worse than modafinil. That is, I don't think it necessarily hurts your mood like that. I think more so it just causes you to be very irritable, short-tempered. If anything, with modafinil, it's not that great if you're practicing intermittent fasting. You need to drink more water. I would recommend having a salad, have some water-rich foods. It'll really help you there, and have a good source of fat throughout the day. Because with modafinil and all stimulants, like, it blunts your appetite, and then you're of course going to be far less productive. Excuse me, guys. Man, there's a lot of questions and thoughts about modafinil. Helps with negative rumination, but definitely antisocial and relapsed on kratom. Here's a question: would FL modafinil have less of an antisocial effect? So I've never tried it, but for most people's experience, they use it, FL modafinil, and 6 months later they get back to modafinil. I've not found one exception to that. It's just sometimes the new nootropic seems the best. What stimulant types would you say feels the most natural? For example, caffeine, yohimbine, phenylprastam. Probably of these three, a low dose of phenylprastam would feel the most natural, and that's a great question because you want to make sure that you can still perform well, your judgment isn't impaired, and socially you don't feel anxiety. And with caffeine, I still feel a little bit anxious when I'm talking to people under the influence of caffeine. With phenylprastam, a small dose you can get away with. Like for me, that's like 30 to 50 milligrams. It's interesting when I look at other people's serving sizes or even YouTubers, like they're using a lot of phenylprastam, but for me, 100 milligrams under the tongue in the morning, that'll get me wired. I'm talking wired to the point I won't be able to sleep. But that's still the dose that I'm going with. Honestly, modafinil gives me different effects every time. One big tip for you guys. Yes. So I've mentioned this a lot in side effects of modafinil videos I made. Like one of the side effects or problem is like the inconsistency of a nootropic. That's horrible because you take something and like you don't even know if it's going to be a good day or a bad day. And that's modafinil and even caffeine. The same thing can be said about that. Can I take Alpha GPC with caffeine plus L-theanine pre-workout? You absolutely can. I'm actually taking a great pre-workout by, I think it's called, the brand is German Pharma, and they've got 500 milligrams of Alpha GPC, of which I didn't even know. I used it a few times, like, man, this stuff is good focus. I'm feeling nice. During my workouts, after my workouts, I learned that they put 500 milligrams of Alpha GPC. Pretty crazy. Do you know anything to take for extreme stress? Love it. Shodan, like that specific form of ashwagandha I was mentioning, or generally any ashwagandha is good. KSM 66. Of course, that's my favorite one. I've been typically preaching taking 300 milligrams twice a day for that. So that one's great. Bacopa Maneri, 300 to 500 milligrams twice a day, and lion's mane about 500 milligrams twice a day is going to be the best. How much milligrams of KSM 66 a day is perfect? 500 milligrams is a pretty big serving size, but that's often how you'll see it in capsules. For me, it was like 300 milligrams twice a day. Now I'm only using it once a day, and then before bed, I'm taking the other form, Shodan, like I mentioned. Huperazine A for adult ADD, in your opinion? So when I first started taking nootropics, I don't know, maybe 11 or so years ago, Huperazine A was like the go-to one, just because a lot of people didn't know about some of the more the ones people are finding the most effective now. People didn't know about the racetams, really, with the exception of paracetam or Noopept or even Alpha GPC. Lion's mane got popular around 2014, 2015. So Huperazine A and vinpocetine, those were the two go-tos, and I tried them so many times and they didn't really do too much for me. So I'm overall disappointed with it. Maybe other people have just various experiences I hear about. Some people use Huperazine A before bed, as it does help to I don't think it's true, but some people say that it can help to elicit like lucid dreams, which is pretty cool. Being a programmer, I really need something that will help me feel wake up through I tried modafinil, but now I can't see result from it. Okay. What do you think of repeating affirmations to yourself? Powerful. I don't say affirmations. I scream affirmations every morning. I like myself. I love myself. I'm the best. I love prospecting. Today is going to be the best day of my this is going to be the best day of my life. I'm ambitious. So write your affirmations, read them. You can do what I did was there's phone applications where you can just like record your voice and they'll play in loops and you can listen to that. I know people who do that before big sales appointments. They just listen to themselves repeat affirmations. I think there's actually a phone app that does that too. But if you're gonna say affirmations, like, hey, say them with some emotion, say them with some energy. Don't just read off of it, because the way you do one thing is the way you do everything. Yeah, speed doctor. I'm gonna skip that question. Sorry about that. But I got rules to follow here. Guys, I'm doing this here and scanning through this thing. This is not as easy as it looks, or today anyway, because half these things are questions, half of them are comments, and the other, no, there's no other half. The rest of people are saying how much they appreciate me. Thanks for that. What do you think about I never heard of this. Dextromethorphan. Why don't you share more about it? I had a bad habit of taking phenylprostam and modafinil late in the day. Had to cut them out a while back. That's smart. I don't know why anyone would take phenylprostam or modafinil later in the day. Like, you're just setting yourself up for an all-nighter, perhaps, if that's something which you want to do. Best nootropic when it comes to motivation/procrastination. One of the best ones really is going to be Noopept. Like, you'll get a lot done with Noopept, yet at the same time, you will feel like yourself. You'll not notice it really working, but look objectively, like, you're not in your head as much. The other one, which I'm really liking, is Sustanch. Sustanch is a product most people take for the benefit with improving your testosterone levels. However, if you take a small dose, what you'll notice is as well, it doesn't so much help with testosterone as much as it helps you just to stay out of your head. So I enjoy that. Best supplements that mimic how you felt and the same benefits that you had while on TRT. That would be Tribulus terrestris, Tongkat Ali, and Testosterone. Those pretty much are my favorites. ZMA doesn't do much, and there's all these other nootropics which there's a reported advantage with testosterone levels, but really you won't notice much from it. Like ashwagandha, I looked at a lot of the studies on ashwagandha, and there's no denying that ashwagandha does help to improve testosterone levels, but the percentage that of the actual testosterone increase that was reported in studies was something like 15 to 30% of an increase. It's not noticeable enough, unfortunately. And the way in which it works is by it kind of boosts thyroid. It does some interesting things with the thyroid. So I get my thyroid checked like every 6 months or so. I get my T3 checked, I get my T4 checked, and I get my TSH checked. And so ashwagandha does some interesting things with your TSH. But it boosts thyroid, so I would really be careful if you're someone with high thyroid levels, especially. But that's one way in which it can actually improve your testosterone levels. But the way more so is it can help you to reduce stress levels. So when it comes to stress, there's acute stressors like short-term stressors, but then there's chronic stress, and that's the bad one. The stuff which is going to cause you to have really high cortisol levels. So ashwagandha will decrease that, and as a result, you'll have better testosterone levels. So in practice, it could be good. Probably more useful if you're somebody that's just overly stressed out, like the earlier individual who shared that comment. Sorry if you answered this already, but what is your current stack? That can be found in my Patreon, because I am changing it all the time. Patreon's in the description box here, as well as some affiliate links. If you guys are going to get some products from Nootropics Depot, I would appreciate we can mutually benefit by using my coupon code. Get your 10% off, and I get a little bit of a bonus. What do you think of valerian roots? It's good for sleep. Don't have it. I noticed that when I was having it with the meal, I wasn't getting as good of results. And supplement bottles will often tell you to take it like 1 hour before sleeping, but I've seen the best results like just trying it right before I sleep, and it doesn't do too much. So if you're going to use valerian root, you're going to be better off using like lemon balm extract, it's going to be the same price, similar serving size, and I think it does more. So valerian root, it's decent. It's not bad. It's pretty light though, pretty subtle. Can you take ashwagandha bacopa during the nighttime after you finished all your works? Yeah, that's a great question, Nick. I get what you're asking here. So he's asking, okay, because we know that ashwagandha and bacopa are going to demotivate you, can you use them in the evening, right? Or is that demotivation effect going to carry over the next day? And it's been my experience that it really hasn't been carrying over to the next day. So ashwagandha, it's super interesting in that there is like a build-up effect, but for a lot of individuals at the same time, there is a bit of an acute effect, and they notice they're like somewhat demotivated, somewhat tired with it. So that's a nice way around it, and that's the specific reason why the majority of the time that I'm using ashwagandha is going to be in the late afternoon and early evening, and then like late evening because I'm using the Shodan. That's a great question. What do you think about 2 times 300 milligrams of Bacopa a day instead of the recommended 300 milligrams once? Because 300 milligram helps with a lot with stress, maybe 600. But yeah, I like it twice a day. I think that once a day isn't enough. Bacopa, it's amazing, really good for memory, good for thinking, good for clarity, good for peace of mind, happiness, like I mentioned earlier. So I think once a day isn't good enough. Yet at the same time, 500 milligrams twice a day, that's a bit much. So if you have it in the powder form, that's the best thing about powder is you can control the dose. So 300 milligrams twice a day is great. I'm currently using the brand of Bacopa that I'm currently using is Bacognize, or what's the other one? Synapsa by Nootropics Depot. But like the brand doesn't matter too much with that one. And the same thing can be said for the most part with Rhodiola rosea. 2 great herbs, Rhodiola rosea and Bacopa. Let's go. Thoughts on experience on DHA, and I've not tried them enough to comment on them, but I'm aware, and that may be to come. Nootropics similar to nicotine. Already got that question. I got to skip that. Any alternatives to chlorastam? Depending on what you're using it for most people, they're using chlorastam specifically for the memory improvement. For that one, Prastam is great, and also Bacopa is great. You guys are funny. Try Rhodiola with dark chocolate 70%. Good nootropic combo and boost mood. Very cool. Thoughts on Alpha GPC versus CDP choline versus sunflower. Okay, so Alpha GPC being my favorite. If you don't respond well to Alpha GPC, then CDP choline would be the second best, because is Alpha GPC. Yes, it's the most effective, or that's how it's known. It's also the most expensive, but it's also the one that most commonly has bad side effects to it. So you learn with Alpha GPC, you got to find your sweet spot. Most people take too much, they feel brain fog, or they take too little, they feel brain fog, or some people take it and they feel pretty depressed. It's interesting now, you see great nootropic blends out there like Quality of Mind. They've combined both Alpha GPC and CDP choline. So I like that Alpha GPC just seems better, well-rounded, better for physical energy as well. Like we spoke about earlier, we're seeing it in a lot of pre-workout blends as well. Okay, I'm skipping that comment. Is it true that L-tyrosine in the morning increases your dopamine levels? Is it helpful for someone with low dopamine? Yes, and I would really recommend that you get on a high protein diet. Get some chicken breast, get some egg white, get some turkey, get whatever protein floats your boat. It'll have enough tyrosine there. It'll help your focus with your dopamine levels. That's going to be important. And you can look at L-tyrosine pretty much like that. You're ingesting dopamine. You're boosting that really important neurotransmitter that is responsible for goal-driven behavior. Let's go. Do you take fish oil? Heard it was good for ADHD and it works well. Yeah, so I take fish oil if you can't sleep any. Okay, so I mean, I'm not sure, Joe, if you're saying the issue is you're taking fish oil and you can't sleep. If that's the case, then take fish oil earlier in the day. But I'm typically taking just 1 teaspoon. I went as high as like a couple tablespoons, and I noticed there was an improvement with my cardio, but I didn't notice anything as far as like a better mood. Didn't really see the point of it. But love fish oil, love fish oil, love fish oil. There's supplements we take to boost performance, boost cognition, and then there's supplements that, of course, we're going to take because we know they're healthy. And it's like eating fruits and vegetables. You won't notice anything really, but it's good for you long term. And that's how I see fish oil. You're welcome. You're welcome. Is it okay to take Alpha GPC with acetylcholine? Yeah, already answered that. Extremely low, like 0.0 something. But is my T3 is good, and that's been the hardest one to get right. Thyroid is super tricky. You try all the different prescriptions. It's like always changing. It's a never-ending battle. I was just talking to somebody with very high thyroid levels, and they thought they had it under control. Their diet was good. Their weight was good. Their meds were working. And then 6 months later, they got a blood test done, and their thyroid is not good anymore, right? My test levels went from 430 to 720 when I took those herbs. They absolutely helped. Let's go. Nice. Glad you shared. All right, look into it. Are you still taking the Wellbutrin? Yes, I am. And I'm taking it 5 days a week typically. So Saturdays and Sunday, I'll get off the Wellbutrin. Sometimes I'll take it by mistake. I don't know how that happens. It looks similar to my thyroid meds, and I'm taking a 300 milligrams. No, I'm sorry, I'm taking 150 milligrams XL. That's the main difference I made. Was the previous years I was taking it every single day, and I was taking 300 milligrams. Now I've cut it down to 150 milligrams. Still feel great, no complaints, feeling good. What can I? What are your thoughts on rhodiola rosea? There wasn't as much of a difference as I expected with these two forms, but I returned back to the rhodiola rosea, the 3% salidrosides. What can I take to boost my self-confidence on a daily basis? You can take some rejection. Get in a job like mine, like selling houses. You cannot afford to have low confidence. You'll be out of the business. Guys, if anyone's aspiring to become a real estate agent, if you're in the USA, if you're in India, it doesn't matter where you are. Let me know. Message me on Instagram. Let's do this together. I'll share with you some nice insights about the company I'm working with at EXP, because I sincerely feel like being a real estate agent is the best job in the world. The sky is the limit. Do you feel like you sweat more on choline? No. That just more comes down to other factors, right? Like including how much you're exercising, because you can lose a lot of water. You exercise for an hour, you're going to lose about 500 milligrams up to 1 liter of water, which you need to replace. You need to be drinking water. It's important. Nootropics, vitamin D. Paracetam, how long did it take to work? 7 to 10 days. Protein is the love of life. Love it. Yeah, so my macros right now are like 60 grams fat, 205 grams of carbs, and these are pretty low. 205 grams carbs, and like I'm trying a super high protein diet, 195 grams of protein. That's considered high. Yeah, like to give you perspective, one egg is what, 6 grams of protein. A chicken breast is like 40. A protein shake is going to be 30 grams of protein, but it adds up, and your focus is going to be better. Also, like muscle soreness is going to be reduced, which is good. So don't skip on your protein, 100%. Thoughts and experience on phosphatidylserine. I don't feel much on it, and that I noticed maybe it takes more time. Where when you'll notice it most is when you're sleep deprived, and that's been my experience. You can try taking a little bit more. Like one of the biggest issues when you are sleep deprived is like your short-term memory stops working. You think you know what to do, and you have your to-do list, and you just like forget things very quickly. I found phosphatidylserine paired with caffeine very effective just for that, and that helped me to get through. Like I was studying and I was selling houses at the same time, and pairing those two together were really helpful for me. They work great. Best nootropic for testosterone. Nootropic or general supplement. My favorites right now, like I mentioned, Tongkat Ali, Testosterone, and then Tribulus, although that's not that effective. Tongkat Ali's been pretty much the best one for me. And then there's so many things which don't work that I thought work. D-aspartic acid being one of them. That one, it helps a little bit with mood, but what you got to know about testosterone is like even the supplements out there which will help, it's such a small difference. The percentages is different. You can't compare it to like serious test boosting products, if you know what I mean. What is my IQ? I have no idea. It's definitely not over 9,000. I don't consider myself that smart, actually. Do you take or just T3? So I take 50 micrograms of cytomel. And it's crazy expensive, believe it or not. I mean, nootropics make no comparison. Can you take modafinil with Adderall or Vyvanse? I would not, because Adderall and Vyvanse, it's the same feeling in the sense of you're focused, you're able to do several things at once. It mostly helps with attention. Yes, we know that modafinil is supposed to help around people that don't sleep at the times that they're supposed to. They're like shift workers, night workers, but in most cases, people are using modafinil for ADHD and attention span and focus. So Adderall and Vyvanse, I don't really see any need to have them with modafinil. That'd just be crazy, and you're probably just too addicted to stimulants. You need to take a break. You need to take a step back. Is there anything that you can take that will increase your physical endurance? Fish oil being one of them. Vitamin B being great, Alpha GPC being great, ginger. Just look into some of the natural supplements out there, like blueberry extract. There's some good like food extracts out there, and they can be helpful long term. Don't expect any miracles. What best caffeine alternative? Theocrine, dynamine, ephedrine. Really depends on what kind of work that you're doing. Nothing feels like caffeine in the sense of like with caffeine, you get the euphoria as well as the like the stimulation, the like the energy also helps so much with your workouts compared to other alternatives. With other alternatives like stimulants, you never know, you're gonna feel a weird heart palpitations a lot of times. Why do you prefer modafinil over Ritalin, Concerta, Adderall, and the rest? Great question, and it's simply because with modafinil, not that I promote modafinil because I do not, but what so is you don't feel withdrawals. And I think the longest stretch that I've used modafinil would be probably like 4 to 5 times a week for 2 months straight. And even then I didn't feel any withdrawals. That being said, I've never taken it a month straight, and I can't say with full sincerity that there's no withdrawals whatsoever. But when it comes to everything else, Concerta, Vyvanse, Adderall, the stronger the stimulant is and the feeling, the worse the withdrawals are, and they are really there. And once I experienced those Concerta withdrawals and how bad they felt and how like depressed I was and how socially isolated I wanted to be, that struck me like I'm never getting back on Concerta. Like, what is the point, right? 5-HTP thoughts, great for appetite suppression, overrated for sleep, good for a nice mood boost. It's I look at 5-HTP like putting it's like a band-aid. That's how it feels, right? You're putting, let's say a problem happens, car accident, something happens, it's gonna ruin your mood a little bit. You take 5-HTP, you will feel really good. It's strange because it's what L-tyrosine does to dopamine. 5-HTP does to serotonin. It boosts serotonin, which is going to be responsible for you being happier. So it's good that way, but otherwise, I would much more. You're going to be much better off having good practices. Do something else. Work on your personal development. Scream out affirmations. There are much better ways to get a quick fix on a good mood. Can I tell if I'm high, low serotonin and dopamine by my reactions to certain supplements? Not necessarily. I would advise you look at some of the symptoms around low dopamine and look at some of the symptoms from low serotonin, and you can make your own conclusions that way. My emergency presentation stack is Adderall plus Phenibut. Don't recommend because it's pretty taxing on you. Ouch. Or sorry, Adderall. Yeah, Adderall and Phenibut. Mine would be modafinil and phenylprostam. Any book recommendations? 100. What is it? 100 ways to. Someone recommended 100 ways to close a deal by Grant Cardone. Be Obsessed or Be Average by Grant Cardone. That one's good. Think and Grow Rich. Psycho-Cybernetics. That's great for mindset. As far as business, if you don't like personal development, read about people. Oprah, she's really interesting. I read a couple of her books. I really enjoyed those. Read about great people and you'll learn a lot. And otherwise, hey, just go to the personal development section of your local bookstore and your mind will be blown. Atomic Habits, that's a big one. And if you message me on Instagram, I'm happy to share with you my audiobook playlist because I love books. What's your opinion on garlic as a nootropic? Doesn't do much. I have tried that in supplement form. I didn't get back to it after about a month. Does Wellbutrin affect your deep sleep? I know it increases REM, but there's no info on it, and you have an Oura ring. So because I'm using Wellbutrin throughout the week, I'm not using it on the weekend. I can say with conviction that it doesn't affect my sleep in any way. Plus, I'm only taking 150 milligrams, taking it right in the morning. So by the time the evening comes, it's almost gone out of my system, right? But yeah, the Oura ring has been great for tracking sleep. I like it more than other products. That being said, though, I do just enjoy wearing rings in general. It's not right for everyone. Like, it's a pretty big, thick, uncomfortable ring, but the Apple Watch doesn't do as good of a job when it comes to tracking sleep or HRV or anything really. What's your thoughts on PEA? Using it pre-workout, if you really just want extra stimulation, just something to add to your pre-workout stack for the hell of it, then it can be okay. But overall, L-tyrosine is going to be better. You may get a bit of a mood improvement, but nothing special. I think it's pretty overrated for anyone who says good things about it. Concerta made me want to go into a dark room and cry. Well, if that happens again, I want you to call me or call someone because you don't deserve to be in a dark room and cry. What's any nootropics known to be best for sprinters? Nope, but I found it interesting that caffeine pretty much helps with all areas of performance. The other one is L-theanine often helps surprisingly in like intense athletic activity, which you wouldn't expect it to be because it's somewhat calming. Do you think NoFap is a nootropic? No, I think NoFap is pretty overrated, or that's been my experience with it in practicing the NoFap. Have you tried binaural beats? Yes, love them. They really help me study. I'm somebody that I prefer listening to something when I'm studying or when I read. So I like Baroque music, classical music, binaural beats, just like a repetitive beat, keeping my attention span there with like a nice boost of some alertness here and there. Forgot to add in the beta blocker to the emergency. Okay, this is the important thing. So it uses Adderall, it uses something else, Phenibut plus the beta blocker, which is going to help with anti-anxiety, which I don't recommend. It's pretty crazy. Pretty crazy. What was the first antidepressant that, okay, sorry, that question was directed to Mr. Wally. Best supplements to increase dopamine without the anxiety besides L-tyrosine. Show, I just made a video on this, man. You're not paying attention. This was like last week. Best nootropics to boost your dopamine. Thoughts on D-L-phenylalanine? Does nothing. That's been my experience with it, man. Like the more I think about it, the more it's just there's so many overrated nootropics. I think I've been pretty clear about my favorite ones, guys. When if I were to think about them off the top of my head, Alpha GPC, Noopept, rhodiola rosea, Bacopa mineri, lion's mane, the racetams, piracetam, oxiracetam, aniracetam, pramiracetam. Then the other ones I'm a bit more strategic with, like the testosterone boosters, Tongkat Ali, it's in my stack, not in my stack. Taking some Tribulus, that one's great. Taking some vitamin B, making sure I'm having a good pre-workout supplement every day, which is going to have caffeine, beta-alanine, creatine, monohydrate, L-tyrosine, all that good stuff. Noopept and Ritalin. I've not found Noopept to be helpful when I'm on any kind of stimulant like that. That's been my experience. Like it can be said that when you're taking something as strong as Concerta or whatever it is, it does overpower anything else that has the intention of boosting focus. And that same thing can be said about taking nicotine spray. When you take it, like you don't know, you're less likely to notice it when you take something like modafinil or phenylpiracetam. Do you have any interest in trying any other antidepressants? I mean, I don't even really consider Wellbutrin an antidepressant for the most part. Even when I go off of it for a longer stretch, like 4 or 5 days, I don't notice anything with my mood. More so, I notice that it helped with physical energy, which is why I started to use it. Plus, it really helps when I'm practicing intermittent fasting, and I typically am, so that's why I really like it. But no, there's no other need to, because the antidepressant side effects are really bad. At the same time, though, I don't recommend people are too close-minded to antidepressants. They're over-exaggerated how bad the side effects are. I do know people that have been in really bad stages of their life and they've used antidepressants and they've gotten out of that. Berberine, it's reportedly good for insulin sensitivity, boosting insulin sensitivity, so that when you eat carbohydrates or when you eat food in general, you're more able to take in those nutrients, not have them spill over to become fat and so forth. I think it's overrated. I think Alpha GPC or our Alpha GPC is a much better alternative. Have you tried icing the test? No, I have not. But cold showers didn't do much. I've been doing cold showers since 2015, and I didn't notice anything with my testosterone levels. I just noticed it really helps with procrastination, staying out of my head. That's why I like it. Noopept effects on the heart. I wouldn't be concerned. It doesn't really increase your heart rate. Can you please tell us why you are a fan of fruit? I'm not a fan of fruit. Blueberry is the only fruit that I eat. I've never been a fan of fruit. For no specific reason, really. Just I prefer eating veg or something fibrous. Are you still on Tongkat Ali? How much of an effect? So I just introduced Tongkat Ali back in my stack after about I could say a couple months of being off of it. And what effect and how much of an effect does it have? It has a pretty good effect, especially for those of you that aspire to be stronger. You'll feel everything that you want to feel, as far as being having better lifts, having stronger joints, feeling more eager to get to the gym. It also does improve your libido, which is pretty cool. So I'm enjoying it, and I got more videos coming out on that. Are there any nootropics that you shouldn't take together? So speaking of Wellbutrin, I would never take Wellbutrin with yohimbine. I also wouldn't take yohimbine with modafinil. So that's one you got to be a bit careful with. And look out for any supplements that do decrease blood pressure. Green tea extract, high amounts of fish oil. You should be a little bit careful with those. Best for terrible memory besides L-tyrosine, it would be Bacopa, 100%. Can you stack 2% Tongkat and 10%? Yes, I did this not expecting it to do much, and it did not do much, so I don't really see the point of it. Have you heard of Wellbutrin causing joint pain? And no, I've never heard of it. Not been my experience with it either. Very interesting that Wellbutrin is pretty free of side effects, not that I'm promoting it. Whenever I take a cold shower, I start to hyperventilate. Interesting. Try eating a meal sometime beforehand or drink a lot of water. Best supplements. Kelp is generally going to be good for overall thyroid health. That one's good. Thoughts on, okay, I'm skipping some of these questions. Thoughts on finasteride, which is the most popular thing people take for decreasing the instances of hair loss. I think it's horrible. It saddens me that people still take it and that they're stuck on taking it because it's a very difficult decision between choosing between your hair and choosing otherwise. So the most common problem with it specifically is like less competitive. People are less competitive, like less ambitious. Lower energy levels is very common. Pretty life-changing stuff, but very strong, very effective. A lot of people do of course get good results keeping their hair. That's what it's for. Best memory enhancement for a healthy person, acetylcholine or Alpha GPC, be Alpha GPC, Bacopa and Bacopa and Noopept. That would be, yeah. Oh, if you're asking about them together, I think they're great together. I don't see any problems with taking them together. If you're like just super sensitive to nootropics, use common sense. Try them one at a time. Start off as small as like 300 milligrams of Bacopa. If that works well, you can go up to two times a day, 300 milligrams to 500 milligrams of Bacopa 2 times a day. Add some don't add some Noopept until you know you respond well to it. So take some time off of Bacopa. Try 10 milligrams of Noopept, which is the most common dose. You can go up to 20 milligrams or 30 milligrams. You can take that 2 times a day because with Noopept, it's pretty short lasting. And once you've known that, okay, you can take both individually, you can take them comfortably, no side effects, then perhaps you can use them together. Like a good place to start is like 300 milligrams of Bacopa along with 10 milligrams of Noopept. Best supplement you've taken in your life. Can I just say like a pre-workout supplement because that has all the supplements I want, or quality of mind? I don't know if that counts. Probably doesn't. Thoughts and experience on beetroot powder and L-citrulline, which people say beetroot powder can be good with stimulants to help keep you calm. I've not personally tried it, so can't comment on it. I've heard of side effects from finasteride, but I didn't. Oh, there is an entire subreddit dedicated to the side effects of finasteride, and it's like the same story again and again and again. It's more common than you think. Try NSI 189. Feel great. Very cool. So I'm jealous because I used NSI 189 on its typical cycle back actually in 2014, and once I used it in that cycle once, like for a month, I could never recreate that same feeling which I felt. So with this very interesting supplement NSI 189, you basically take it in a cycle and then you don't need to touch it again. It's supposedly fixes a lot of problems, rewires your brain. Yeah, so the first cycle was great. The second cycle I took several months afterwards. I didn't notice much. And then the third, I didn't notice anything from it. But the good news is, as I have it now, it's back after like 5-6 years. So maybe I'm going to give it a shot. And guys, we're going to wrap this up. I apologize for the audio issues earlier, but hope you guys got a nice crystal clear message. I'm going to get timestamps below. I thank you guys so much for your participation. And sorry again if there was any technical issues because I'm not watching this. I'm just looking at this camera, talking to all you guys, seeing your smiley faces and your great comments, and appreciate all of you. Stay tuned for the future videos coming up. You'll see the timestamps here. And if I didn't get to your question, man, I'm deeply, deeply sorry. You guys don't know just what I'm seeing here. I'm seeing spam. I'm seeing the same questions reposted again and again. So I mean it. If you have a question, write it below. I will get back to you. I will make sure to respond. I get back to all the comments. I appreciate you guys. Talk soon.